Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. Let's begin with the keywords that made headlines this week. President Lee Jae-myung uses NATO summit debut to deepen Korea's defense ties with the alliance and promote expanded cooperation with its members. President Lee Jae-myung made a 3-day state visit to Mongolia where the two sides discussed ways to deepen their strategic partnership in areas such as minerals and regional security. The International Monetary Fund has sharply upgraded Korea's economic outlook, citing the country's booming semiconductor and AI exports. President Lee Jae-myung kicked off his NATO summit agenda by calling for deeper defense cooperation with the alliance at the Defense Industry Forum. Our Blue House correspondent Song Jin reports from Ankara.
Korea is a trusted partner built on shared values and proven capabilities. That was President Lee Jae-myung's message as he made his NATO summit debut on Tuesday.
신뢰할 수 있는 파트너인 대한민국의 안정적인 생산 역량과 검증된 기술력이 나토의 오랜 노하우와 합쳐진다면 양쪽의 안보 역량은 지금보다 훨씬 강력해질 것이 분명합니다.
Speaking at the summit's flagship Defense Industry Forum, Lee said Korea and NATO share the painful memory of war and a common commitment to defending democracy, freedom, and peace. To further strengthen those ties, the president proposed upgrading defense industry cooperation in research and development.
단순히 무기 체계를 거래하는 현재 방산 협력을 넘어 무기 체계를 함께 연구하고 함께 생산하며 함께 운용하는 한 나토 방위산업 파트너십 2.0으로 격상해 나가기를 제안합니다.
The Blue House says this would improve interoperability, reduce maintenance costs, and allow both sides to jointly upgrade defense systems. Korea and NATO also announced the launch of negotiations on a framework procurement agreement following talks between President Lee and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
Once the agreement is concluded, Korean companies will have an institutional foundation to participate in NATO's joint procurement market, estimated at around 15 trillion won, roughly $9.9 billion US.
In a separate meeting on the same day, NATO and its 4 Indo-Pacific partners, Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, agreed that cooperation among like-minded partners is becoming increasingly important. The group session was first introduced at last year's NATO summit in The Hague.
The Blue House says President Lee's NATO trip is aimed at broadening Korea's diplomatic horizon, with a particular focus on expanding defense cooperation with the alliance, whose members account for more than half of global defense spending. He is expected to continue that effort on Wednesday through bilateral meetings with war leaders. 송유진, Arirang News, Ankara.
President Lee Jae-myung held a series of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Ankara, including talks with U.S. President Donald Trump on naval shipbuilding cooperation and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on North Korea prisoners of war. Yoon Jung-min has the details.
3 weeks after their last encounter at the G7 summit in France, the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. have met again, this time at an official dinner in Turkey for this year's NATO gathering. According to the Blue House, Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump had a follow-up discussion on military shipbuilding cooperation, which President Trump had requested 3 weeks ago.
이번에도 역시 미국 군함 열척을 빠르게 건조해 줄 수 있겠느냐. 물론 거기에 대해서 당연히 가능하고 최선을 다하겠다고 답해 드렸습니다.
Lee said he was willing to cooperate as much as possible and highlighted South Korea's excellent shipbuilding capability. The leaders have agreed to continue talks at a working level on what's been dubbed the Make America Shipbuilding Great Again project. The Blue House added that Trump has reminded Lee of his recent invitation to play golf, and the president's trip to the U.S. will be arranged at an opportune time. President Lee also sat down with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for the first time, where they highlighted the need for cooperation for peace and recovery in Ukraine. South Korea announced on Tuesday a $100 million assistance pledge for the war-torn nation. When it comes to North Korea's military support for Russia, the leaders agreed to resolve the issue of North Korean POWs in accordance with international law and under humanitarian principles by respecting the free will of the captured. The South Korean president also held back-to-back meetings with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre. and Romanian President Nicu Jordan, looking for greater cooperation in the defense industry and renewable energy.
지금 현재 국제 정세가 매우 불안정한 상태여서 이런 때일수록 국가 간 협력과 교류가 매우 중요하다고 생각합니다.
During Tuesday's official dinner in Ankara, President Yi met with several other foreign leaders, including Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, for talks on people-to-people exchanges, and the Netherlands Prime Minister Rob Jetten for talks on energy cooperation. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung began a 3-day state visit to Mongolia on Thursday, the first by a sitting South Korean president in 15 years. The two countries explored ways to deepen their strategic partnership with critical minerals and regional security among the key agenda items.
With Korea and Mongolia declaring the start of a golden era in bilateral relations, the next step is turning that vision into tangible gains. A key part of that effort is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement for which the two countries have reached an agreement in principle. Speaking at the Korea-Mongolia Business Forum after his summit with Mongolian President Hurresu Uzna on Thursday, President Lee Jae-myung said the deal marks a new turning point in economic cooperation.
상품과 서비스 투자 분야에서 장벽이 낮아지면서 양국 기업들은 보다 안정적이고 예측 가능한 환경에서 새로운 시장과 사업 기회를 확대해 나갈 수 있을 것입니다.
Unlike a traditional free trade agreement focused primarily on tariffs, SEPA also places a strong emphasis on broader economic cooperation. A senior Blue House official said the summit helped narrow differences over market access and implementation timelines, leaving only technical details to be finalized. Through this, Korea and Mongolia aim to increase bilateral trade to $1 billion by 2030. Last year, the figure stood at just under $700 million. Critical minerals will be another key pillar of their strategic partnership.
Mongolia seeks to combine its abundant reserves of critical minerals, vast renewable energy potential, and strategic geographic location with Korea's manufacturing strength and technological innovation to expand joint production and play a greater role in regional supply chains.
This comes after Korea and Mongolia established a rare metal research center in Ulaanbaatar last December. The center analyzes rare metal resources, including tungsten, molybdenum, and lithium, while providing technical training in mineral processing and refining.
President Lee's trip marks the first state visit to Mongolia by a South Korean president in 15 years. It also comes earlier in Lee's presidency than in any other administration, which the Blue House says reflects the two leaders' commitment to strengthen bilateral ties. Song Mi-jin, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
July's extraordinary parliamentary session kicked off this week amid political deadlock. The main opposition party has been boycotting proceedings in protest over the ruling party's unilateral formation of parliamentary committees. To tell us more, we have our political correspondent An Sung-jin with us in the studio today. Welcome, Sung-jin.
Thanks for having me, Sujin.
Right, so to start off with the political deadlock, what's going on with this right now?
Right, Sujin. So this month's extraordinary session opened amid a political deadlock. Now, the ruling Democratic Party has called for a plenary session to pass bills aimed at expanding renewable energy and strengthening support for vulnerable young people. They also accused the main opposition People Power Party of holding the public's livelihoods hostage by refusing to participate in the proceedings.
The People Power Party has refused to cooperate in normalizing the National Assembly, delaying once again the passage of livelihood bills. The Democratic Party will make a responsible decision if this obstruction continues.
The PPP, on the other hand, is boycotting the session as it is against what it sees as the DP's unilateral formation of parliamentary committees. It argues that the ruling party pushed through the appointment of chairs for 11 special parliamentary committees without bipartisan consultation, calling the move an abuse of its parliamentary majority.
For us, it's not about sharing political power. It is about ensuring the National Assembly has the opportunity for meaningful debate before passing legislation, so the ruling party should return to the negotiating table.
Now, despite this boycott, the DP has been moving ahead with activities in committees led by its lawmakers. The National Assembly's Finance Committee held its first meeting of the new parliamentary term on Tuesday without PPP members in attendance. The Culture Committee and the Fisheries Committee also held meetings without the main opposition party's participation. The National Assembly Speaker continues to hold meetings with the party's leaders, urging them to finalize the structure formation before Constitution Day next week. But with both sides standing firm, July's parliamentary session is set to begin as a divided legislature, raising concerns over delays to key policy and economic legislation.
There's still a lot going on since the local elections. So what else has been at the center of attention at the National Assembly these days?
Right, so the special committee investigating into the ballot shortage during the June 3rd local elections conducted on-site inspections of the National Election Commission and the Seoul Metropolitan Election Commission on Tuesday. Now, following the inspections, lawmakers from both parties criticized election officials for delayed reporting, poor crisis management, and failures in communication after it became clear that there would be a ballot shortage. They questioned why the election headquarters took so long to recognize the seriousness of the situation and further highlighted breakdowns in reporting and oversight between local and national election authorities. The National Assembly is also looking to introduce a special counsel bill to investigate the matters further, but rival parties remain at odds over how to appoint a special prosecutor. The DP proposed a bill that calls for an independent third party, such as the Korean Bar Association, to recommend the special prosecutor, arguing that the method would ensure political neutrality. However, the PPP insists the recommendation should come from the opposition party, saying the investigation must remain free from government and ruling party influence.
And lastly, the National Convention for the DP is fast approaching. So when is the convention going to take place, and what can you tell us about the leadership race that's going to happen?
Right, so the National Convention is set to take place on August 17th, which is about a month away. The leadership race is looking to be at least a four-way race. Former Prime Minister Kim Min-seok officially declared his candidacy earlier this week, and lawmakers Hong Young-il and Ko Min-jung have also put their names forward today. Former DP Chairman Jung Chung-nae, who has stepped down from his post, is also likely to bid for another term for the party leader.
Thank you so much for your coverage today, Sung-jin.
My pleasure as always.
The Rim of the Pacific, the world's largest international maritime warfare drill, is ongoing around the Hawaiian Islands. This addition is all the more significant to the ROK Navy, which has taken the role of the Combined Force Maritime Component Commander. Our Kim Bo-kyung files this report from Hawaii.
Naval forces from 30 nations convened around the Hawaiian Islands, advancing towards a shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific region. They came together for the Rim of the Pacific, the world's largest multinational maritime military training event. Marking its 30th edition this year, RIMPAC features 30 surface ships, 5 submarines, around 200 aircraft, and 30,000 personnel. On board the USS Essex of the U.S. Amphibious Fleet, one task force commander highlighted the importance of the drill, underlining that the region constitutes nearly 2/3 of the world's economy and is home to over half of the world's population.
And by integrating our forces, we ensure our collective ability to deter aggression, prevent coercion, and protect the global supply chains and lines of communications that help sustain our interconnected economies and our continued prosperity.
This year's RIMPAC exercise is all the more meaningful to the ROK Navy as Korea assumed the role of Combined Force Maritime Component Commander. Dubbed the Fortress on the Sea, the Navy's most advanced Aegis destroyer, the ROK's Cheongdo the Great, is making its RIMPAC debut as the South Korean Navy makes history as the first from Asia to command the exercise's Maritime Task Force. Taking part in simulated air defense warfare training, the crew in the warship's command and control center shot down incoming enemy missiles with SM-2 surface-to-air missiles. ROK's Cheongdo the Great is not the only core asset from Korea that's taking part in the drill. The ROK's Dosan Anchangho is docked at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam in Hawaii. The country's 3,000-ton submarine sailed across the Pacific before joining RIMPAC after completing a combined naval exercise with Canada in early June.
With some of our finest assets here, our multinational partners can see how far the ROK Navy has advanced. Serving as the Combined Force Maritime Component Commander, I can also see how much the Navy's global stature has grown.
With state-of-the-art assets in place, The ROC Navy will continue to demonstrate its capabilities as RIMPAC continues through July 31st. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Korea's economic outlook has been given a major boost. The International Monetary Fund has sharply raised its 2026 growth forecast for the country, citing booming semiconductor and AI hardware exports. Our economics correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The International Monetary Fund has sharply upgraded its 2026 economic growth forecast for Korea to 2.6%. This is a 0.7 percentage point increase from the April estimate. The adjustment closely tracks recent revisions by the Bank of Korea and the OECD, which both raised their growth forecast to 2.6%. According to the IMF's July World Economic Outlook update released on Wednesday, in Korea, growth is expected to rise to 2.6% in 2026 and 2.5% in 2027, buoyed by strong external demand for semiconductors, which dominates the negative impact of the war. With these revisions, Korea's growth trajectory stands as the highest among advanced economies for 2026 and 2027. The report highlighted a remarkable performance in the first quarter of the year. The IMF noted that Korea surprised with a 7.5% growth rate in the first quarter, more than 4 times the 1.8% projected in April, powered primarily by a semiconductor and AI hardware export boom. The agency categorized the country as one of the top 4 net exporters of artificial intelligence hardware globally. In contrast to Korea's upward momentum, the global economic outlook for 2026 was downgraded by 0.1 percentage points to 3.0%. The IMF observed that national growth paths are diverging sharply based on 2 conflicting forces: negative supply shocks from the Middle East war and positive technology shocks from the AI value chain. While the United States held steady at 2.3%, high energy costs dragged down forecasts for the Eurozone to 0.9% and Japan to 0.6%. China's forecast rose to 4.6% on high-tech manufacturing, while the Middle East and Central Asia saw a severe cut down to 0.7% due to energy export disruptions. The IMF also raised its global inflation forecast to 4.7%, urging central banks to prioritize price stability while warning of potential macro-financial instability from sudden shifts in AI market expectations. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The AI boom is fueling soaring demand for advanced memory chips, pushing Samsung Electronics and SK hynix to accelerate major semiconductor expansion projects. Our business correspondent Park Jun-an reports from the scene.
In Yongin, Gyeonggi-do Province, workers are busy erecting the steel pillars that will soon anchor the world's largest semiconductor megacluster. Right here on this ground, SK hynix is building its next-generation semiconductor cluster. The company will spend 600 trillion won, or roughly $390 billion to complete the project as early as 2033. The site will soon house 4 new fabrication plants to meet the booming demand for AI memory chips. Samsung Electronics is also stepping up its game in Yongin to fund future tech infrastructure. Though the designated site is currently empty, the area will soon transform into Samsung's mega semiconductor complex. The reason behind this aggressive bet is AI demand. The global AI race is moving faster than ever, and at the heart of this is a surging demand for high-performance memory semiconductors used for AI data centers. While explosive AI investments by global tech giants have brought massive capital into Korea's top 2 chip makers, a shortage of AI memory chips has raised concerns across the tech industry. Soaring prices have delivered record profits for chip makers in the short term, but an extended supply bottleneck could force tech giants to seek alternatives to expensive memory, potentially reshaping the market demands. To prevent supply bottlenecks and secure long-term market leadership, Samsung and SK hynix have significantly accelerated plans to complete their semiconductor clusters, which were originally slated for the 2040s. Plans are also underway to establish a second semiconductor hub in the country's southwest. For now, however, the Yongin clusters remain the centerpiece of the projects. Once completed, they could serve as Korea's core AI infrastructure, helping power the global AI era. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics has posted record-breaking preliminary second quarter earnings fueled by soaring demand for AI chips.
Samsung Electronics has announced a record second quarter operating profit that goes beyond market expectations. According to a preliminary earnings report on Tuesday, the tech giant posted an operating profit of 89.4 trillion Korean won, or approximately $58.5 billion US. To put this into perspective, the operating profit jumped an astonishing 1,810% from the same period last year. Revenue surged 129.3% year over year to reach 171 trillion won, or roughly $111.9 billion. In just that quarter, Samsung earned more than its combined operating profit for the 3 years spanning 2023 to 2025. No other global tech giant has ever reached this milestone in a single quarter, and the company's actual performance could have been even higher. The reported profit doesn't include around 17 trillion won, or approximately $11.1 billion allocated for employee performance bonuses. Without this provision, the second quarter operating profit would have surpassed the 100 trillion won mark. Samsung's massive earnings are being driven by an AI memory supercycle due to increased investment in AI infrastructure. The demand for advanced memory chips is heavily outstripping supply. As the company with the world's largest memory production capacity, Samsung is reaping the maximum benefits of this AI bottleneck. The firm's success is further solidified by its recent milestone of becoming the world's first to mass produce and ship the 6th generation HBM4 chips. Samsung said it plans to reinvest earnings into expanding its production bases in Korea. Industry watchers are taking a closer look at how the company's investments will translate into future profits and whether strong demand and pricing power for memory chips can be sustained. Park Junan, Arirang News.
Incheon International Airport has reached a major milestone, surpassing 1 billion cumulative passengers just 25 years after opening. Baek Ju-hee has more.
On Tuesday, Korea's main gateway reached a historic milestone, welcoming its 1 billionth cumulative passengers since opening in 2001. It took the airport exactly 25 years and 3 months to reach the mark. On average, 108,000 passengers use the airport daily, which translates to 4,513 people per hour, or 75 travelers every single minute. The airport reached 100 million passengers in 2005 and 500 million in 2016, before doubling the figure within a decade to hit 1 billion in 2026. According to the Incheon International Airport Corporation, this is the fastest growth rate among major global hub airports. While Incheon achieved this in 25 years, Germany's Munich Airport took around 34 years, Singapore's Changi Airport 35 years, Japan's Narita Airport 39 years, and Dubai International Airport over 58 years. The 1 billionth passenger was Ayaka Hara, a Japanese national boarding a Korean air flight to Tokyo. Incheon International Airport Corporation held a grand ceremony to mark the milestone, presenting her with a commemorative plaque and a free airline ticket.
The facilities are very clean and well equipped. Plus, the staff always comes over to help right away if I look lost, and they're so polite.
By destination, routes to and from Japan recorded the highest volume with more than 204 million passengers, followed by China, the United States, and Vietnam. Incheon's rapid growth is backed by consistent government support and infrastructure expansion. Following the completion of its Phase 4 construction project in 2024, the airport expanded its annual capacity to 106 million passengers, making it the world's third largest airport in terms of international passenger infrastructure.
Foreign passengers made up 45% of our traffic in the first half of this year and will likely exceed 50% soon. We are expanding immigration staff to slash wait times, improving terminal facilities, and enhancing foreign language signage.
Everything was great. The check-in was very smooth. Everyone was very helpful. I can say that the Seoul airport really is up to the standard.
As Incheon International Airport celebrates its historic milestone, the Airport Corporation will now focus on investing more on facilities and innovate services. Baek Ju-hee, Arirang News.
Korea's summer weather is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Sudden downpours are replacing steady monsoon rains, prompting cities to adapt as residents learn to cope with more extreme conditions. Shin So-yoon tells us more.
It hardly feels like the rainy season as people shield themselves from the blazing sun with parasols. But a few hours later, a sudden downpour sends commuters scrambling for cover. Instead of the familiar monsoon, which usually settles in for weeks, the weather currently swings back and forth several times a day. According to a weather expert, Korea's late monsoon and swings in weather behavior were caused by cool, dry air lingering over the peninsula, preventing the North Pacific high from pushing north and delaying the arrival of the seasonal rain front.
We're seeing more frequent high-intensity rainfall because there's simply more warm, moisture-laden air moving in from the south. Once it meets the cooler, drier air over Korea, rainfall can intensify very quickly within a short period of time.
I'm standing here on the Pampo Riverside Walkway, but during heavy rain, this area can be submerged within minutes. To prevent another disaster like Gangnam flooding, Seoul has been expanding its water drainage system.
Catch basins at Riverside Path are kept clean to ensure efficient drainage, and warning signs have been installed to restrict public access when rising water levels pose a flood risk. Seoul has also been expanding its underground stormwater tunnel network to store and divert massive volumes of rainwater, a vital flood control system that channels excess water away from urban areas. As rapidly changing weather catches many residents off guard, new services like the eco-friendly Webrella umbrella sharing system are emerging, offering reusable umbrellas that doubles as parasols and rain umbrellas.
It's unpredictable. I don't know when to pack an umbrella or not. But other than like the weather app on my phone, I don't know where else to look at. Yeah.
AI is also effectively used to deliver in-depth analysis and faster warning alerts.
Unlike conventional weather models, now Alpha uses AI to quickly predict where rain clouds will move in the coming hours, improving short-term rainfall forecasting.
Officials advise to stay alert, monitor emergency notifications, and being ready to use flood control measures such as water pumps and flood barriers when heavy rain strikes. 신소은, Arirang News.
That brings us to the end of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.